What's next doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by chance. What's next happens when experience meets expertise, when data meets dollars, and when steel meets earth. What's next happens when the promising work of Pioneer's state-of-the-art research centers meets the unsparing challenges of more than 17,000 on-farm trials. Our ultimate goal is to bring the next seed breakthrough to your fields, because Pioneer isn't just our name, it's our mission. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
This RealAg Radio podcast is brought to you by Travalis Herbicide from FMC. When you need to protect cereals from a long list of the toughest in-crop weeds, Travalis Herbicide is powerful performance in one small package. You don't need to crush your back when what you really want to do is crush weeds.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. Hey, thanks so much for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. Of course, today it's the Farmer Rapid Fire, which is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Now, for more than 90 years, Pioneer has developed and tested products to meet your local challenges. With new Z-Series soybeans, new Optimum Glide canola, top-performing corn products, and industry-leading traits and technologies to maximize your yield potential, Pioneer's on-the-ground teams can help you get the right products for your fields. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more. And today on the Farmer Rapid Fire, we're kind of going a little bit, there's one discussion today that I'm really looking forward to hearing because we need to better understand what is happening in this BC fruit situation, the Okanagan Valley. Tremendous losses on the cherry crop. Joining us will be Sukpahl Bal. He is a cherry grower from Kelowna, British Columbia. We're also going to hear today from Mark Brock, who is in Ontario. We've got Mike Shewchuk, who is in Saskatchewan, and Byrne as well in Ontario. Holly Loucas will be our Pioneer area agronomist joining us today as well. She is based out of Ontario. If you have any feedback on today's program, well, you can always send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can find us across all the different social media channels, or you are more than welcome to call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. And let's get rolling with the Farmer Rapid Fire. Our first stop on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, is Byrne, who is in Essex, Ontario. Hey, Brennan, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. You all ready for spring? You feel like you're set to go?
No, it's still early in my part of the world, so we've got some time. I think we put things away in pretty good shape, so we should be okay. But we're still pretty early here.
What would be, like, if you were to, and every year is kind of different, but what is kind of the date on the calendar where it's like, okay, that's kind of when hopefully we're ready to get going?
Well, lately, like the last few years, it's probably been that first week in May. Before that, maybe a little bit would get done the end of April, but first or second week in May has tended to be a little more the way that it's been around here. We've had some pretty wet springs the last few years. By the time we dried out, that's when it usually worked out to be.
Yeah. You got time then.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's going on the farm this week?
Not an awful lot. We're doing some cleanup. We actually had a tornado go through in August of last year, and we finally got things settled up with the insurance, so kind of cleaning up some barns and stuff that came down to put some new projects on the go for spring and summer. And otherwise, we've had a little bit of rain the last few days, which has kind of slowed down really anything that you'd be doing, even out pulling stuff outside.
Yeah. Do you have much snow at all?
We have not had really any snow to speak of this entire winter. We had a couple inches come in one little storm, and that's been it. I see other parts where they're constantly getting hit, but we have not had to say, shovel snow or push snow once this entire winter.
Feels weird, doesn't it?
It does. I remember like when I was a kid and you kind of had those long, cold winters and snowmen and everything else. And it's been a very odd one that way. I think the Detroit station here, which is where I'm kind of closest to, so I watch a lot of, I think they had us at 7 or 8 days that have broke records for temperature just in this last couple months here.
Okay, so what are you doing with all your free time now? You completed your time as chair of the Grain Farmers of Ontario. That happened about mid-February. So do you feel like kind of you got your life back?
Well, you know what? I really enjoyed the role. I think that I learned a lot. I got to do a lot. We had great staff and a great board to work with. So I've gotten a bit of my time back, but I've used it, I guess, since then. I took a vacation with the wife that I think I owed her over the last 3 years of me running around. Did a trip to Buffalo to go watch the Oilers with my family as well, and just kind of resituated myself with a few other things. And it slowed down, but I'm still on the board for another year and always around to try to be a helpful resource when needed.
You're now the wise old man. That you're providing. Once in a while, they defer to you, and you sit back in your chair, and here's what I would do, young whippersnippers, right? Is that kind of the role?
Well, and it's weird because the way that our board has turned over the last few years, it used to always be I knew who I would defer to, like when Mark Brock was there, or Henry Van Ankem, Mark Houston, Kevin Armstrong. They were always the guys I deferred to, and now people are deferring to me to do the same. So it's kind of that natural progression in a board that happens, and I think we're in a good place.
So is that the end for your work on kind of ag policy stuff, or take a break for a while? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've got 1 year left in my 2-year term for my local region representing District 1 for GFO, so I'm going to finish that out, and then I can do 2 more years after that. We can do a maximum 12 under farm products, and we could do the 3 as chair as well under farm products. So I have said that I'm pretty open to any ideas or opportunities that people have to bring to me or for me to look into. But I do kind of want to just take a little bit of time and kind of evaluate where I see myself fitting in and where I think I can help, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. You excited for baseball season?
I am. I was going to mention that I think our Tigers might have a better chance of winning our division than Toronto might, based on strength of division.
You're playing a week to who can't win that division.
Hey, I don't make the rules. I just go by them. So I'm a little more excited for Detroit this year than probably the last few. Last year was a little bit better, but I think they've got a good young nucleus. So, and my son's still playing travel baseball, so we run him around and take in those games still too. So
I'd really like to see Spencer Torkelson just have a great year, like just go on a tear. He was so good in college. Like he that has to translate to being just a stud major leaguer, but it hasn't happened as quickly as maybe they first thought.
Well, last year was a big jump, I think, for him, and even like watching a lot more of the games than I had. Even the outs, he was hitting the ball really hard. So I think he's on that way. But yeah, there was a rough adjustment in the first year and a half, 2 years for sure.
Yeah, I saw him hit a ball one time when he was playing for ASU that I still don't think that ball has landed. he hit it so hard and so high and so far. It was crazy. Baseball kind of is that trigger, though, right? For like opening day is here today, right, on this Thursday. So it kind of is kind of like a trigger point of, man, it's like spring is here. Baseball is on the airwaves.
That is kind of like, for me personally, like when March Madness starts, and then you look towards the everything kind of opening up for baseball, and that is when I start to feel like, okay, now we can start getting a few more things ready because it's around the corner. So yeah, my calendar generally has went by sports in my head. So
yeah, did you fill out a bracket?
I did. I don't think I think I was third or so right now, but I don't know that I've done real well. I picked a few that worked out, but certainly didn't pick Oakland or teams like that to jump in and disrupt.
Yeah, one of mine had Kentucky winning it all. That worked out not very well.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, overall, as you look at the 24 growing season, how are you feeling about the year ahead? We've definitely seen those commodity markets not act and go in the direction that would be ideal. But how are you thinking about the year ahead?
Yeah, I think this year feels like one of those ones where you do have to kind of keep an eye on your expenses, because who knows with the weather and that, what the yields might be, and the prices, like you say, are not what they maybe had been or you hoped. So it's one of those ones you kind of, everybody's different, but you keep kind of a tight look at what you're doing, try to be as optimistic as possible. And I've always found that, like, that's one of the nice things that comes with spring as well, is it's a lot of optimism. And we've always talked about that, even with meetings with other people, is, you know what, as farmers, we can't help but be optimistic, because we put a couple seeds in the ground and hope that months later they'll return us with even more. So I'm hopeful, but cautious, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Hey, Brennan, have yourself a great planting season, and we'll talk to you again when you get some crop out of the ground.
Thanks so much.
We've got a lot more coming up in the Farmer Rapid Fire. You're listening to RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
I am Lindsay Smith. Today's show, of course, brought to you by Koch Agronomic Services. And joining me now is Bryce Geisel. So what should farmers be keeping in mind about protecting nitrogen?
Well, the main thing, there are three forms of nitrogen loss. The key one with spring nitrogen applications is volatilization. And in order to mitigate it, we need to inhibit the specific enzymes in the soil to keep that nitrogen in the field.
So how then, though, if I want to make the best decision for the fertilizer that I've got, how do I know the level of rate, or that the product that I'm using has got the right amount of stabilizer in it?
There are lots of good sources that you can kind of utilize to find that information. It's always good to talk to an agronomist, talk to the manufacturer, to your retail, and have those questions. So our products are the standard that researchers use here in Canada and are scientifically proven to work. You can find a comparison of various nitrogen stabilizers at defendyourn.ca. And there you can learn more about active ingredient rates and see how other products stack up to our agronomically effective solutions.
And we continue the Farmer Rapid Fire here on this Thursday, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Now we're stopping in Staffa, Ontario. We're talking to Mark Brock. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
It's going really well. Thanks, Shaun.
Things busy on the farm?
It's kind of busy. We're that kind of awkward timing of getting ready for spring and kind of waiting for weather to straighten around and get ready for some field work here shortly.
Well, you know, this wasn't planned this week, but we've got two former GFO chair. We just talked to Byrne, and now we're talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who's next? We're just running into all these ex-GFO chairs.
We're everywhere.
You just can't stay away.
Yeah.
Do you feel ready for spring?
I think we are. I think it's been a weird winter, to be honest, with the weather we've had. We've had so many mild days kind of in February where we're doing like equipment work outside. It feels like we should be in the field already, and then we go on the weekend and it's like, oh, it's still winter, it's still March. So it's been a weird winter that way. So I feel like we're ready because we've been doing stuff all winter because it's kind of been nice. So it's just like, it's mentally trying to switch over. Okay, now winter is over. It's spring now. So we anticipate getting to the field shortly, but it's just been a little wonky.
Yeah. I really, it has been a really weird winter across the board. Like really across the country. Like if most of the producers here that I've had on the farm rapid fire, that's been kind of the common comment is that, it's just snow, and then there is snow, and it's warm, then it's cold. It's kind of, it hasn't been. It's just been strange, and I don't know if that sounds like a really weird, kind of lazy comment, but that's just how a lot of people would sum it up.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster just with temperatures, and then for us here in Ontario, it seems like we've been cloudy since October. It feels like so. Sandy and I were just kind of in the truck here running some errands, and I miss the sunshine. I want to get to that time where it's like we got 5 days of sun and it's a little bit warm outside, and we know that it's going to kind of stick around. But yeah, it's been kind of a dreary winter that way.
That is one of the big differences between the Western Canadian winter and the Eastern Canadian winter. A lot more sunshine in the west. You got to come out to the prairies once in a while, Mark.
Oh, I know. It's on the list of to do here maybe this summer. So
okay, well, make sure you stop in Lethbridge and you stop in at the RealAg Studios if you come our way. Just make sure you plan it when the wind's not howling at 100 kilometers an hour. Just that I really recommend. I do recommend.
That's one thing we don't have to worry.
No kidding.
We don't have to worry too much about wind.
Yeah. In your windy, it's sort of like everybody has a different context of drought and a different definition. The same with wind speed. Your windy's different than my windy.
Yeah, and your dry is different than my dry. Yeah,
absolutely. What's your read on what's going on with these markets? Corn has just done a real dandy of slipping lower again after I don't know. There seems like we're just taking away any sort of gains that we've made. We're back to kind of looking in tough shape again.
Yeah, I guess part of me, maybe it's a pessimistic look, but we're kind of back into reality. We've kind of gotten through, COVID. We got through, but not with that, we're through the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But, I think the world's comfortable that we can still feed it without supply, like high supply out of Ukraine. And so like that whole corn market is kind of like Brazil's so dominant now. They're such a superpower in ag. It's kind of scary to look at what they can do. That I guess I just kind of been reading the tea leaves here over the wintertime that, this could be a reality for us for the next little bit. The sad part about what we do as producers is that we need a disaster of production somewhere for us to have higher prices. So someone has to fail, which is always a bad way to look at it for an increase in prices, because I'm not sure we're going to increase demand enough to really warrant a huge increase in price. So it's understanding cost reduction and making sure that we can hopefully cleave a margin out of this crop with input costs and prices.
Yeah. Like when it comes to managing costs, what are some of the things that you and Sandy are doing on the farm? Can you give some examples?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like we've really been focusing on soil fertility levels, ensuring that we're only putting on what we need. We're doing a lot of VR application. We've been working with an agronomist trying to reduce our nitrogen rates because we have access to livestock manure. So we've been able to pull our corn nitrogen usage down to only using 100 pounds per acre instead of like 170 we have been using. So it's just understanding where our higher cost items are on the crop, understanding how we get the most bang for our buck, return on investment for the products we do use. And that's what I spend a lot of the winter doing, is running numbers, looking at how, crop budgets and all that kind of stuff. So if I can understand that stuff and work with an agronomist that can understand some of the other stuff, we can really start to fine tune our costs and get it down to a level where we're actually making money.
Yeah, get into that granular sort of really. I think everybody's on a different piece of that pendulum in terms of looking at data and the information and making decisions, but there's always room for improvement. And whether it's and whether it's tight times or it's the lofty times of say two years ago. That granular focus is good. It's gonna benefit you. It's gonna have real sustained benefits over the longer term.
Absolutely, like that granular look when prices were good just means that our profitability was quite high, and that gives us a bit of a financial cushion to ride through some of these tougher times. So it's really easy to lose that granularity when you're when you're profitable, but you can be even more profitable if you can kind of maintain that through the good times. And it just it's such an added benefit when we hit these a little bit leaner times, is that we know where we can make the money. We have a bit of cushion from some good years behind us because we were really good on costs then. That it just helps us sleep at night a lot better.
Yeah. Now you mentioned livestock manure. Are you using the sheep manure? Is that what you're doing?
Sheep manure, and then we also, with our family, we have an agreement to take a lot of the chicken manure that we have. They have. So, yeah, so that's where we get some of the nitrogen as well. So it's just, understanding how we can integrate some of that stuff into our system and maximize its value.
How is sheep manure? Like, I know chicken manure is very, like, it's great. How is sheep manure?
Yes. Sheep manure is pretty good. It's the potassium levels in it are quite high, especially with Sandy, because she loves to bed them with straw. So it's pretty high in potassium. So it doesn't quite have the same bang for your buck, but it's a great place for us to put it on some eroded knolls where we can build some more organic matter, because it is high in organic matter that way. So it's a great tool to work with. We don't have as much as the chicken manure for sure. So it's kind of nice to target it on those areas where we're trying to build soil health and soil quality.
Is Sandy a recreational bedder? Is she just, does she love putting out bedding or something, or what's going on over there?
Sandy loves her animals. And so she wants them to be comfortable, and comfortable means that they have clean sheets. So having clean sheets means Mark gives her a lot of wheat straw.
I feel like we have really pierced into something here that we really need to dig in deeper next time. We'll have Sandy on next time to provide her perspective on what's really going on here. This is good.
It'll be different than mine, that's for sure.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, hey, Mark, all the best to you this spring, okay? And definitely say hi to Sandy for us, and we'll talk to you when a little bit later on in the growing season, okay?
Sounds awesome. Thanks, Shaun.
We've got more coming up here on the Farmer Rapid Fire on RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
Before you get back in the field this year, spend some time with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com. Get all the information you need on hybrid selection, planting depth, crop inputs, and more from a wide range of industry experts. A massive library of video content is available on demand when you need it most. Spend your time outside of the field, inside the classroom, with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is your one-stop shop for everything a canola grower needs. Check out our free video series on YouTube for all the latest in canola agronomy, research, marketing, and more. Don't have time to watch? Download the podcast version of the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com or anywhere you download your podcasts. Stay on top of all things canola with the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com, and what an opportunity! Oh my gosh! You think you can't grow better wheat? You are absolutely wrong. We're going to show you how to strive for those record wheat yields that they get in the UK and in New Zealand. You can grow 150 bushel wheat. I'll show you how.
Catch WheatPete's Word every Wednesday on RealAgriculture.com or download the podcast on iTunes or Spotify. And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire to Blaine Lake, Saskatchewan, and we are talking to Mike Shewchuk. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Shaun. How are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. Of course, the Farmer Rapid Fire, everybody, is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Okay, what's happening on the farm here this week? What are you doing?
Oh, we are busy, still busy cleaning grain. We're going to finish up peas hopefully this week. Other than that, there's still some grain moving out to the elevator, a couple loads of flax moving out, and then you're actually getting a load of coal also from Alberta tomorrow.
Oh,
so going to lovely Alberta before the carbon tax increases on April 1st. So going to try and get a few tons in before that increases.
Well, yeah. we know this. You're in Saskatchewan. You are in the heartbed of how people feel. I know very strongly how the province feels about the carbon tax. Boy, that the fact, we've seen such a swing in the polls, yet just the government not backing down and continuing to raise the carbon tax. to me, it just sort of score some political points. Maybe say we're going to pause based on how concerned Canadians are about affordability, but that doesn't seem to be a bit of an option here, does it?
No, it's definitely interesting. I mean, there's you can see how the politics of provincial versus federal are just not jiving. I mean, it's good that we have a voice provincially against the carbon tax, but it's a struggle. It'll be a struggle until the next federal election, basically.
Yeah.
Nothing that we can change as individuals. I mean, our farm groups still have to rally for the farmers and what's right and everything like that. So
yeah. How do you feel about the year ahead?
About what? Sorry.
How do you feel about the year ahead? Like, how are you feeling about this year, the 2024 crop?
Optimism. You know what? We have a decent amount of snow on the ground right now, so it's good. I think we'll be okay for moisture to get some of the seeds germinated. But I don't like where crop prices have gone. I mean, that's a little bit disheartening. I mean, they have been recently climbing a little bit. Obviously, not the level they were. So I mean, when crop prices drop that much, you kind of got to rely on a higher amount of production to come in. So, I mean, we're optimistic. I mean, as farmers, we're kind of eternally optimistic. So, I mean, like I said, we have a decent amount of moisture to start here with snow on the ground, and hopefully some rains come and we can get decent crop. Because I mean, the way prices are, commodity prices, we're going to have a pretty decent crop to make a profit this year.
So they're in Blaine Lake. How is the moisture?
Overall, I mean, we went into fall very dry. We've had several dry years already. Some of the worst droughts I've ever seen by far. So I mean, we're on a very dry cycle. Like I said, I mean, we got about a month ago we got some decent snow here. So that'll help the moisture situation for a bit. But we're gonna need rain, lots of rain.
Yeah. Like, so what's the crop rotation look like this year? Same as always, or have you made some changes?
Very similar. I mean, I would have added more pulses, primarily yellow peas to the rotation, but we spread a lot of nitrogen in fall time. So I mean, that limits the acres that we can put pulses on. So I mean, rotational wise, will probably be, if anything, a little bit more spring wheat this year. That's nothing crazy out of the ordinary.
And with increased pulse acres, I always think of the issues with root rot. I think that's kind of a cap. No, there's availability of seed and issues with root rot. Those are the two caps, I think, on where the pulse acre goes, even if the market is saying plant more.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, on our acres yearly, 10% of our acres can go to pulses because we're on a 1 in 10 year rotation on yellow peas. Like, that's how bad a root rot is in the area. So it's very limiting to what we could put it in.
1 in 10, everybody.
Crazy.
Hey, what? Like, and so, but previously, how often were you growing pulses? What was it? 1 in 3?
Yeah, we weren't even stressing it that far, Shaun. Like, it was like 1 in 4, even 1 in 5, 1 in 6 years. We would still see devastating root rot. I mean, it hasn't been as bad in the last couple of years because we've been in a much drier cycle, but still, it's the number one yield thing that'll kill your yield here is root rot in peas. Mm-hmm. So that's the rotation is number one.
Well, and the thing is, it's not like it's okay, you got to do the math, and there's like a 10% yield drag, and we can get away with it if the markets are a certain way, or I get it. It's way more devastating than that.
It's unlike any other disease. I would say it's clubroot obviously is a very bad disease in itself, has its own struggles, but root rot can just, phenomyces will just completely wipe out your pea crop for, where you should get a 50, 60 bushel pea crop, a really good pea crop, you'll see 10, 15 bushels. It's just devastating.
Yeah. Well, I know we're going to be talking to Sukpahl Bal, who's a cherry farmer in the Okanagan Valley here in a little bit here on the Farm Rapid Fire, and they've faced devastating cuts to their yields on cherries because of weather. It's farming's not easy, man. Like
No.
like Mike, when it goes well, it's like, this is awesome. This is like, it just feels like it's just like clockwork. It's just boy, but the adversity and like the variables, it just seems like it just doesn't. It rarely runs perfect. That's the problem.
Oh, that's true. And you can plan as much as you want. I mean, we do so much planning to try to get everything perfect, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's you're kind of take what you're given, and like you say, I mean, farming can be it can be so much fun and so rewarding sometimes. But I mean, when you dive into the details, there's a lot of struggles that people from the outside don't see. So it can be definitely a struggle.
But what do you think about this? I would almost argue that as important as, like, okay, here's what our plan is, it's the secondary, plan B and plan C, that are just as or even more important, because that's really that's the difference, I think, amongst operators is, okay, when the adversity comes, maybe it's adversity we know is coming, or it's some sort of like, something out of left field, so to speak. It's having that secondary plan. That's where you kind of separate the quality of management amongst farms. Would you agree with that, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I was just thinking of an analogy here that when we're talking about plan B and C and D, and on our curling team, like, we always, when we're shooting a rock, we go for plan A, but 90% of the time it ends up at plan F or further than that. So we got to plan for these things. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we struggle here, especially in Canada, Western Canada, with weather. So I mean, you can plan things out as detailed as you want. If the weather, or there's many other factors that can influence things on the farm. You got to be able to come up with a different plan. Sometimes on the spot. Sometimes you could, have a plan B, plan C, but sometimes those can all get thrown in the trash too, and you got to improvise.
You know what? Your curling team sounds how I curl, especially when you get to those skip rocks where it's like, okay, there's a lot of rocks in the house. We could draw it, or let's just throw it as hard as we can, and probabilities on our side. They're going to scatter, and it's going to work out in our favor. That sounds like your curling team right there.
That's exactly what our curling team is like. Yeah, we're kind of about 10 years into it, and we made a little bit of progress, but we're still there for the fun and the beers after. So it's fun.
My kind of curling. Well, hey, Mike, all the best to you during seeding time. We'll talk to you a little bit later on the growing season. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good, Sean. Thank you very much.
When we come back on RealAg Radio to finish off the Farmer Rapid Fire, now, this is a bad situation. What's going on in the Okanagan Valley related to the cherry crop for 2024? It is a bad situation. We're going to talk about when we come back. You're listening to RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
What's next for your fields? At Pioneer, delivering industry-leading genetics drives everything we do. From the scientists in the lab to our local teams with boots on the ground, we are determined to get there first. Developing top-performing products, proven in more growing conditions than ever before. Pioneer. What's next happens here. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more.
Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin, host of the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com. Throughout the year, on the Soybean School, we'll bring you timely agronomic video content from planting to harvest, from the latest agronomic research to the latest in production technology. Check out our massive video library on YouTube, RealAgriculture.com, or download the audio podcast versions wherever you get your podcasts. The Soybean School is brought to you by BASF and Syngenta Canada.
We take the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, to Kelowna, British Columbia, and we're talking to Sukpahl Bal. Hey, Sukpahl, how's it going?
Hey, good, Sean. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Okay, so I wanted to bring you on the Farmer Rapid Fire today because I wanted to find out what is going on right now with the cherry industry in the Okanagan Valley. I haven't been hearing good things. But I would like some details from you. What's happening?
Sure. Yeah, we've been in this stretch of about 5 consecutive seasons where an extreme event, be it polar vortex or heat dome, has really done some damage to our crop, and to the from the get-go of very, very short crops. We're talking in the range of less than 20% crops in some seasons for growers. And the heat dome year, beautiful crop on the trees, and then extreme heat came in the end of June and really did a lot of damage, didn't let the fruit size. So there's been a lot of issues, and we've never seen anything like this where it's year after year, and there's not even a season where you catch a break and have a average year.
Yeah, man. Okay, and is there business risk management programs to backstop that those kinds of severe losses?
Well, as you know, we do have the business risk programs, the production insurance and agri-stability. But in my discussions with government, what I've been telling them is these programs weren't designed with this extreme climate in mind. They were designed as, okay, you had a bad season, maybe it was spring frost or a hail event or something happened. Yeah, if you trigger a claim, there's a 20% deductible when you buy to the highest in production insurance. You can only cover 80%. So grower has to kind of eat that 20%. And then you hope the next year your crop is better. You have an average year or maybe a record year, right? So that's how those programs are designed. And what we're highlighting is, look, that 20% deductible, now people are having that applied 5 consecutive years. That's a huge portion of a crop that is not being covered. And it's showing that the weaknesses, call it, that we haven't really adapted and changed our programs to acknowledge the extreme events we've been seeing for the last 5 seasons.
Are we seeing Are we seeing people transition out of cherries into other crops at this time, or what's happening there?
Yeah, not exactly, because with tree fruits, it is such a big investment to with the planting, and 4 or 5 years out, then you start getting some viable crops. Production is supposed to occur, so it's not like a ground crop, doing tomatoes one year and then next year let's switch to peppers, or we can't transition. It's kind of this slow aircraft carrier if you want to turn and go on a different route. So that's kind of the challenge where growers have invested so much in plantings. We have some of the most expensive land in Canada here. The optical machines for packing houses is a huge investment. So our industry has been one of the top industries in exports. As you may have we may have discussed the South Korea market. We're the first cherry market with a systems approach to get cherries there. All other markets have to fumigate.
Oh, well, okay, maybe worse than I've heard as you break this down. So for 24 here, how are things looking? Like, give us a bit of an outlook here as you look at your own operation.
Yeah, what you've heard is really bad, and the news is it's even worse for this year. So this is the worst part of this stretch where I'm anticipating that on our own farm we have over 90% of our crop has been wiped out by that cold event in mid January, and many other growers are in that same boat, so to speak. And just maybe some of the farms near water, near Okanagan Lake and such other lakes around, they may have a bit of a crop. But with this recent January event, it was tracking to be such a mild winter, and just within a few days, we went from plus 5-6 degrees to minus 30. So it was kind of the worst situation where the trees were getting signals, hey, it might be time to wake up soon. And then, quickly this polar vortex came down and dropped temperatures to levels that we've seen that cold before here. But what usually happens is the trees see, -5, -10, -15, -20, kind of a gradual cooling, and the trees get hardier as things get cooler. But a drastic shift in temperatures is not something that the trees can sustain, and you get all the flowers within the buds freeze.
Yeah, it's no different than a human is in a warm climate. They get on an airplane, like say they're going from Hawaii and they're dropped into the middle of Manitoba in the middle of winter. It's a shock, right? You're not acclimatized, and trees are really no different. Okay, so that's gonna. This is because I've heard the same thing. Is the same sort of that cold snap has really negatively impacted the wineries as well in the region. Is that what you've been hearing?
Yeah, for them as well. More just the last couple of years with cold events has really done a number as well on the plants and those the grapevines. They're even less hardy than cherry trees. Well, so our trees, we're hoping the trees are fine. We're going to be losing this year's crop, but we won't be in a situation where we're doing a mass replanting because trees have died. We may have some branch mortality here or there within the canopy, but the grapes, yeah, they're in a really rough situation, and they're the varieties that they've kind of gone to over the years are not very hardy for our region. They do make the better wine, from what I understand, but so they face that challenge where it is gets to be risky when you're planting material that's not suited for this area. Whereas our cherry varieties, we have the Federal Summerland Research Center right here in our valley, breeding program that's produced 80% of the commercial cherries worldwide have come from this area. So we've been planting material that's from here. So we even us we're facing the challenges with how the plants are having trouble coping.
Yeah, from your own operation standpoint, Sukpahl, like we've been talking a lot about the drought and some of the impacts on the prairies, and in agriculture we know that Mother Nature is the big variable, of course, and we need her to cooperate, and but it's over a sustained amount of years. That's got to be having a lot of impact on your own operation and forcing you to make some pretty tough decisions, I'm sure, to kind of steer through this.
Yeah, it's really tough times, and I have been spending since that January freeze. Most of my time has been trying to discuss with government on this immediate support that's needed. I've been explaining that the cherry industry, even after the heat dome, we weren't knocking on government's door saying, "Hey, we need some extra compensation." We were trying to let the programs do what they do, and we're desperately looking to get out of it ourselves with a season that we can sell our cherries. But it's come to this point where, it's that breaking point where how long can you go without having a season where you're actually farming your crop. So that's what we're kind of say the canary in the coal mine type of thing with how these programs are designed, and we're trying to really push. Hey, we have not acknowledged these extreme events consecutive year after year. It's not in our programs. There is agri-recovery, as you're probably aware of, but agri-recovery has this condition where you have to have incurred extra costs due to the disaster.
Yeah.
So we don't have barns and that are flooded or animals that are flowing down with the flood, et cetera, that we've seen on the news in the past. I'm saying this is I would have called a silent disaster. Right, our trees are still there. They still look the same. It's just that polar air came down very rapidly, did its damage, and the production programs that are supposed to deal with that aren't up to the standard that we need with these extreme events. So that's where I'm pushing government to try to make some changes. But and my worry is that the changes won't come fast enough.
Yeah, speed's important in these kind of situations. Now, as a cherry grower, give us some insight. Do you have other crops, or are you like a cherry grower, and that's the only crop that you're farming? Is there diversification here to help you out, or you're all in on cherries?
Yeah, with our operation, we went into agri-tourism because of our location. So we've got a farm market, a little coffee shop restaurant, a small bed and breakfast, and then we also host some special events because our farm is got a beautiful view of all of Kelowna. And so we leveraged that. So we started doing that back in about 2010. But it's the agritourism. It is growing, but it's had this negative sentiment towards it. The public or policies are kind of, just farm, don't get into that stuff. Leave that to the hotels and people that are in different zoning. You just worry about farming, right? So there's a whole big discussion on that and how that should happen. But personally, that's what our farm we've gone into a little bit of that. But there are a lot of our growers do have apples, but the apple situation has been very down. The pricing, we're right up against Washington State, one of the largest producers in the world. So yeah, there's challenges on many fronts, but with all the investments with packing houses and what you need to do to grow cherries, we've seen many people actually very specialize into that because they've got all these investments made. And what we've proposing is that not just hey, we need instant cash and that's all. No, we want a game plan to get out of this. So we're actually our research committee at the Cherry Association, we're looking at how do we grow cherries with climate change in mind. What other things need to be done? So we're looking to adapt to this, but as you know, that's just not okay, next season we've got everything in. That's a long-term thing, right up to even breeding hardier varieties that can withstand cold. That's a 25 to 30 year outlook on cross pollinating and trying to get a variety that comes out of the thousands of test cherries to see which one can withstand those cold temperatures.
Sukpahl, I wish it was under different circumstances, but I do appreciate you filling us in on what's going on in the dire situation there in the Okanagan Valley. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again soon, okay?
All right, thanks, Shaun.
When we come back on RealAg Radio, we're going to finish up with Holly Loucas of Pioneer Seeds Canada. Get all the information you need to keep your pulse crop healthy and profitable with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School is a free YouTube video series covering agronomy, research, and more across a host of different pulse crops. It's also available as an audio podcast wherever you download or stream your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube or visit RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School, brought to you by BSF Canada.
I'm Lindsay Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomist, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lindsay Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
And we finish up this week's Farmer Rapid Fire talking to Pioneer Seeds Canada area agronomist for West Central Ontario. It is Holly Loucas. Hey, Holly, great to chat with you.
Hey, Shaun. Good, happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So what have you been up to this winter? It's been a weird winter, kind of strange. We heard that from our farmers here today. It doesn't matter where they are in the country. And for sure from Brandon and Mark, who are farmers that joined us this week, both commented on kind of been an odd winter. It feels like it's going to be a bit of an early spring.
Yeah, I would echo those thoughts. A lot of chatter in the neighborhood about those similar things. I honestly, I did shovel a little bit of snow this winter, but I really didn't have to. I think I just made myself feel better, moving a tiny little bit. But yeah, very little snow, a lot less than we've had, and just a lot of talk about what that's going to do.
So what does that create in terms of considerations for growers as we creep a little bit closer to what we would call, more traditional springtime? There's going to probably require some discipline to not get started too early, right?
Absolutely. I know we're not supposed to farm by the calendar, but in this case, we do need to kind of look at the calendar and make sure we're in, late April or early May before we get started. Start planting corn in March in Ontario never works. So, just being mindful of, are we actually in our window when, the growing environment is going to allow us, and keeping an eye on that long-term weather outlook too, right? Like, if that temperature is dropping below 0 and 10 days out, then, probably not a good idea to put some seed in the ground, or, know your risks when you're putting it in. But the other thing that comes to mind too is now's the time you're planning your whole strategy, management strategy, herbicides, fungicides, all that kind of thing. So just keep in mind that we've had probably our third winter in a row that's been fairly mild. So, making sure your management considerations, you don't have to commit to the fungicide now, but this may be a year when, fungicides, insecticides really come into play.
Well, you were commenting earlier during the commercial break about, one of the things with it being kind of unseasonably warm, different than we would normally see, some concern about, maybe some of the impacts it's having on that Ontario winter wheat crop?
Absolutely. The wheat looks really good. I drive quite a distance some days, and, typically we would see some fields that, just didn't look that good. And you expect that every year. We always, kind of plant some wheat hoping for the best. And if it doesn't make it, the crop rotation's already there. You can flip it into something else. But this year, the wheat pretty much across my geography looks really good. But we sit here, the last week of March, we've got a substantial period to get through before that wheat's really going to start growing and growing the roots and encountering nutrients in the soil. So, just keeping an eye on it. I haven't seen too much turning yellow yet, but the possibility of it going yellow and then purple, and just understanding that the leaves that are on the plant right now are not the ones that are going to pack on weight in those kernels. So, we can sacrifice some leaves now, knowing that it's going to put out its flag leaf, in a timely manner.
Yeah. And when should you kind of be making those evaluations? When's the ideal time?
Probably within the next, March, and like the next month. There's no point going out now and making an evaluation, because things could happen in the next 2 weeks that are out of your control, right? You don't want to press the button to put fertilizer down too early. I have had some fertilizer go out on some wheat already that is probably a bit early, and you're probably going to lose some. So, just making good management decisions.
Jumping back to corn and, the discussion about, how early is too early and things like that. You need to keep those average frost dates in kind of top of mind, and they're going to be different depending on where you are. Like where you are in your geography, that's different than if you're in the deep south, right? So, but there's weather can change, and as nice it is today, it doesn't mean that we're out of the frost window.
Absolutely. I cover kind of up to Georgian Bay, so we've definitely got a pocket up there that can see a frost in May, late May. So, just kind of being aware of those times and making sure you're not getting that crop in the ground too early is definitely a thing to remember.
Yeah.
So I guess this year we kind of have to farm by the calendar, but still watch the weather.
Yeah, but it's corn, that consideration with corn is the same for Western growers when it comes to canola, right? The touch of frost in that canola can just be brutal, and then you're setting that crop back potentially with that touch of frost, and then the flea beetles go nuts and bonkers and have tons of feed on as that crop is stalled out. So in some ways it's kind of it's the same sort of consideration and thing that you gotta definitely think about. And I'm sure a lot of your colleagues at Pioneer are talking to growers about that in Western Canada as well. So as the growing season approaches, you looking forward to this? Is when you get out in the field and you get outside, we're out of the meeting room, and you finally get out to see some fresh air and stuff like that and see some crops growing. You looking forward to it?
I am. I was stuck in a meeting all day. So yes, I would. I'm ready to get out, walk some fields, start looking at some stuff. So timing will be good.
It'll be here before you know it. Well, Holly, thanks a lot for joining us here this week on the Farmer Rapid Fire. All the best to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
If you have any feedback on today's program, you can send us an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You also can find us across all the different social media platforms. And the Real Ag feedback line is 855-776-6147. Enjoy opening day, everybody. Baseball's here. It is a great day. Looking forward to a great season and also a Blue Jays World Series victory. We're in tight. We'll see how it goes. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with Real Ag Radio. Chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you for downloading this RealAg Radio podcast, brought to you by Travalis Herbicide from FMC. When you need to protect cereals from a long list of the toughest in-crop weeds, Travalis herbicide is a powerful performance in one small package. You don't need to crush your back when really what you want to do is crush weeds.